Hi, this is Elvira from Scrappy Mania, and today I'm going to create another layout with minimal supplies. I just have some paper, some stamps, some ink, and that's pretty much it. I'm actually, if you notice that I'm not in my craft room in the regular surroundings, so I'm actually at a hotel, and I just want to show you that you can create gorgeous layouts without having to have all the fancy die cutters and things like that. So I'm using one of the papers from here. So actually I'm using this paper and it's double-sided. So this paper, my sister gave me this some time ago, and it's from GC Studios and it's double-sided. And I'm not sure if they sell these anymore, but I thought that the color went very well with the collection of the Heidi Swap specialty papers. So what I did is, here's my layout. So because I don't have a lot of my tools, then a lot of the layouts that I'm creating now has a lot of layers, has a lot of pattern paper, just to give it some interest. And one of the layers is this die cut. Actually, it's not a die cut, it's a pattern paper. So it's a paper that I cut out the pattern, and it's double-sided, and actually this goes well with this color scheme, goes very well with the Heidi Swap collection. And then here are all my other layers. So let me go ahead and fast forward the video and let's get started. So the first thing I'm going to do to all these layers is I'm going to ink the edges, but I'm kind of stepping out of my comfort zone here, and I'm using neon ink blue to ink my edges. And then the page there, that blue page, actually measures about 11.5 by 11.5, and that gives it a little bit of 1/4 inch on each side, because I did not want a lot of the base page to show. I just wanted a little bit to frame that that blue paper. And then that circle pattern paper, I went ahead and placed it, instead of the center, I went ahead and placed it towards the right. And that is actually more pleasing to the eye than if I would have put it in the center. Then I have a lot of little pieces, so to kind of pretend that it's a whole piece, like that map and the other little piece of map, you just glue it. I glued it under that that pattern paper, that star paper. And then it seems like it's a complete piece under there, but actually it was just a little scrap. And then I just started going through my pile of scraps that I have and trying to use those as layers for this layout. And I'm making sure that my layers are a little larger than my photo mat. Now in a moment you'll see that I jumped to a cluster that I created, like that little tag and other embellishments. The camera ran out of battery, so that cluster that you see me holding there in the hand was created as one unit, because it's easy for me to create those clusters as a unit, so that way I can easily move it around the page to kind of get where it's more pleasing. And here I'm just playing, I'm trying to create another little cluster up on the top. However, when you create clusters, you have to try to, or not have to, but it looks a lot more cohesive if your cluster touches the mat where your photos are going to be, or at least touches some element close to your picture, so it all looks like a unit. Otherwise, if you start creating clusters and not really touching your photo mat or your layers, it looks like it's just floating there, not doing anything, which is fine if you have a lot of clusters on one side and then you need another little particular cluster to balance the layout, which I'm going to show you in a moment. That's fine, but if it's best to, at least for me, my layouts I think look better when I try to create clusters that touches my mat, or at least other layers within the layout. So here I notice that I created like a real a cluster there. Everything is kind of touching each other, and then I'm placing the mat on top. And I didn't like those semicircles, so I just took them off. And it wasn't, I didn't really like the look. So now that I created that cluster, the other little cluster that I created off camera, I'm going to place that right beneath the photo mat. And when I do that, I do not put glue on any of the areas which is going to touch the photo mat. I only put glue on the areas that it's off the pictures or the photo mat. So now notice that there's a lot of what I'm trying to explain is notice that everything is heavy towards the left, towards the right. So we need to balance up there. So I'm showing up there that I want to balance that little area there so that way it doesn't look like my layout is all tilted to one side. And to do this, I went ahead and had some little pieces of leftover banner. I put a little tag that was part of the paper pad. I also going to put a star, so I'm repeating the star again, and each cluster has a star which helps unifying these clusters with each other. And then I'm stapling the stars down. Now I couldn't get my staple in. I don't have my long reach stapler that from home. So what I did is I pulled off the star, and then I went to use my mini stapler to staple the star so that way it will coordinate or match the other two stars, because I did staple the other two stars on my page, and then I just applied some glue and placed it back down on my page. So the next thing I wanted to do, I still felt that that little edge layer there needed a little more emphasis. So that's why I went ahead and used my pen to outline the little cluster there. And then I still felt like it needed something else to give it a little more weight. So I decided to put a little saying underneath, and notice that actually gives a little more weight to that side and helps balance the page out even further. And because I don't want it to be too dramatic or give too much emphasis to that little area, I decided to use my neon blue. So you see the saying, and it gives it a little bit of weight on that side, but it doesn't distract from the photo or the other layers. And that's what I'm trying to explain there. So I hope you like this layout. Very simple with minimal products. Just some paper, some inks, and some staples, and that's pretty much it. And I hope you like it, and thank you for watching. Bye now.